Hello, bonjour, namaste, ni hao, and ohio everybody. What is going on? It is Galey here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel once again for another Danmachi Season 5 video. And today, we are here to cover the extra details for both Episode 7 and Episode 8. Of course, we missed out on Episode 7 a couple of weeks ago due to me getting caught up with, of course, all the binge recording I've been doing for the upcoming 2 weeks. And so, unfortunately, I couldn't do it when the episode first dropped 2 weeks ago. However, we are going to do it now alongside episode 8's extra details, and it's kind of perfect timing because, of course, if you guys weren't aware, check out yesterday's video. We talked about episode 9 being delayed and postponed, and of course what that means for the the season as a whole, and if it's a good thing or a bad thing as well. Be sure to go check it out. But it's a good opportunity for us to effectively catch up on everything that we kind of wanted to talk about regarding, of course, the last couple of episodes and the season as a whole. Now, of course, if you guys going to enjoy today's video, remember to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel for more content, and let me know what interested you the most from the extra details given to us by both the Danmachi anime production team and along with that Fujino Omori himself as well. One more thing to mention as well is that if you want to see episode 8's extra details, there will be a chapter down below that you guys can just go straight to, and of course a timestamp that you guys can go straight to. But if you want to watch the entirety, which I implore you guys do, of course, there's going to be stuff that I want to, cover in terms of the extra details for episode 7 as well, considering, the state of episode 7, from a light novel reader's perspective. I think it would be great for you guys to, watch the entirety. But of course, if you're only interested in episode 8, timestamp down below, you guys can go and check it out for yourselves. Now, first and foremost, let's start with the Danmachi anime production team, then we'll jump over to Omori's thoughts as well. Now, of course, if you guys weren't aware, my feelings on episode 7, I've said it enough times already as to how I feel about episode 7. You guys can go and check out the breakdown videos and stuff that I've done for that episode. There are still things that I liked about the episode, and I'm quite curious to see how they're gonna add to the overall episode with the extra details. Now, usually when it comes to the extra details from the Danmachi anime team and stuff, they usually tend to basically put the cut contents on their Twitter account as the extra details and tips, basically, right? Which I'm not a big fan of personally. Obviously, it's like you're kind of trying to cop out a little bit by, obviously saying, oh, we couldn't put it into the anime, but we're putting it here for you guys. And it's like, I mean, I guess, but like, really, you could have maybe done it a bit better. But it is what it is. That's just how the cookie crumbles. I can't really blame them for not adding it into the anime because they're already, struggling for time and stuff. But it feels kind of annoying that, they know about it. They know that this is cut content. This is content that should be in the anime, but they can't do it because of a lack of time, which is kind of really frustrating from a, personal point of view, of course, right? And I'm not really blaming the anime production team for this. I'm blaming the higher ups for this, the people in control of, getting the episodes to them or the episode counts to them and everything, right? That's the people I'm more frustrated with, to be quite honest. Anyways, episode 7, tip number 1. Asfi and Ryu arrive at the town of Agris, a place beyond the reach of Freya's charm. It is a full day's ride southeast from Morario by horse-drawn carriages, and nearby is the ruins of Shurim Castle, the setting for the war game with Apollo Familia in Season 2. Actually, I don't remember this actually being mentioned in the light novel. I can't remember them ever saying where the setting was, so that's actually pretty cool to know that it's actually nearby to where they, did the familiar war games against Apollo, of course, right, in Season 2. I think that's pretty cool. I actually didn't realize that. That is pretty sick. I don't think that's actually mentioned in the light novel, so that's actually a really cool extra detail, to be quite honest. Episode 7, tip number 2. Mia and Anya are considered to have semi-withdrawn from the Freya Familia, but they are still enrolled in it. And Freya has removed the charm effect from her own family, so they still have Seer's memories intact. Now, a lot of people may have been confused as to why Anya and Mia weren't charmed at all. Obviously, in a previous episode, I think it was episode 5, when obviously Belle woke up and was officially charmed and everything, or the rest of Orario was charmed and everything, and he was actively trying to run through Orario, and then we heard the executives talking, right? The execs talking. They said in that episode that all of Freya Familia's members have had the charm lifted from them. Now, the thing is, though, because it was so unclear so far, they've never really fully said, you know, what is the status of Mia and Anya in the anime. It's only in episode 8, technically, that we know what Mia's status is. Of course, by extension, I assume everybody would have realized Anya's status as a semi-resigned adventurer is the same as Mia's, basically, right? And so because of that, because of the fact that they're still technically part of the familia, it's just not actively but part of the familia, they're still able to obviously, you know, realize and remember Seer, because the charm effect has been lifted from them as well by being a part of the familia still. So that's something that I wish they had touched upon a little bit more in episode 7, so that people would have been able to kind of understand it a bit more, because I feel like, while I have always said this, I don't want things spoon-fed to us. The whole idea of anime and just stories in general is that it's up to the viewer to interpret how the story is going. But there are certain things that you still need to help, you know, people guide into the right direction of. And the anime didn't do a really good job with this part, I feel like, at least in episode 7. Gladfully and thankfully, I should say more so, episode 8 kind of covered that basis already, which is good. But you know, episode 7 had Anya being confused as fuck and everything, and I think that would have been great to have her be, you know, more aware of the situation then as well. Episode 7, tip number 3. Anya lost her parents at a young age and has been living alone with her brother Alan. However, unable to bear the days of fighting and suffering in the Freya familia, she ended up in a bar after being abandoned by her brother and the chief god. To Anya, Freya was an object of awe who had taken her brother away from her. Now, this was a full-on backstory in the light novel. I've said this is probably one of the bigger cut contents in episode 7, and probably the biggest scene that was cut in episode 7, of course, right, was the entire Anya and Alan backstory. It was just completely just dropped from the anime. Now, I feel like they should have included it still, to be quite honest, because again, it adds to the whole Freya background story, as well as also just generally Anya and Alan as well, who are key members of the story as well at this moment in time, right? One being part of the Freya family, the other one being part of the Hostess of Fertility, and really close friends with both Ryu and Seer, and by extension Freya as well. I think it would have been way better for them to have included the Anya Allen backstory, but again, it probably would have been another 5 to 10 minute scene in itself, and as a result, I feel like that's another issue of like where we needed more episodes. It's as simple as that, you know, just like how and this is why I say it would have been so much better to you know, have the higher episode count as well, is because if you look at the previous season, right, season 4, we had so many episodes where at the start of the episode they do a background story or background showing of the Astrea familia. There'll be like a couple of minutes of, oh, this is how this is the lead up to them facing off against the Juggernaut and stuff, right? This is the lead up. This is how Ryu was interacting with all the familiar members. These are how all the familiar members behaved as well. Now imagine if there was a lower episode count for season 4 and they had to remove all of that. The connection to what happened against the Juggernaut would have been a lot less. And so that's why I'm kind of frustrated that, you know, things like this are being skipped out on, because it would have just added more of a dynamic to the story and more of a dimension to the story as a whole, and people's emotional attachments to the characters would have been much greater as well. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion in that sense, right? Episode 7, tip number 4. Ryu was a very clean, freakish elf, OCD elf, and did not allow any skin contact with others. So only 3 people were able to hold her hand. Alize, one of the Astrea familia members, of course, right, the captain of the Astrea familia at the time, Seer, and Belle. What did Ryu feel when she instinctively shook off Seer's hand? Obviously, yeah, the being offered the hand by Seer may have not been, or I say Seer, but Freya more so in this case, would have been very much questionable. But yeah, only 4 tips. I'm surprised considering the state of the episode, but you know, it is what it is. Let's see what Omori has to add in terms of the story as a whole, and of course, episode 7. Thank you for episode 7. When I read Norse mythology, I think Freya has a dual nature, a positive and a negative one. I wonder if episode 7 was about how that would turn out if you were to adapt it into the Danmachi story. In other words, this was my favorite episode. You know what, Omori, I respect your opinion, is what I will say to that. I'm grateful to everyone involved. Please look forward to episode 8. And boy oh boy did we look forward to episode 8. Let's read the thread that he's got as well, because that'll give us more details on everything that happens here. A little addition this week. I really think it would be good if Belle was monopolized by Ryu. By the way, as a girl, I don't like eyes. Now, I assume this is not technically Omori's perspective, by the way. This is more so Seer's perspective. Seer loves both Belle and Ryu, so if they were to end up together in a parallel world, she knows that she would step aside with dignity. She is a motherly type who watches over them with a warm heart. Of course, this is in context to, of course, the what if story that Omori made a couple of months ago, if not a year ago at this point, I think it is over a year ago, basically talking about what would have happened if Belle got together with Ryu after the events of season 4. What if he abandoned his admiration of eyes and just got with Ryu instead? And in that story, actually, Seer steps aside, which is absolutely fair, and I think it makes a lot of sense considering how you know, how much of an appreciation Seer has for Ryu and how much she loves Ryu as well. So in that situation, I think it made a lot of sense. Also, there was additional context as well as to why, you know, Seer was more than willingly stepping aside as well. I would highly recommend you guys go check out my video talking about the what if you guys want to discover more about the what if and exactly what happened at the end of it. Trust me when I say this. If you're a Ryu fan, you're not going to be probably very happy with this story, but I think it makes a lot of sense. I think the what if was actually done pretty well for the way it was structured, where the way and the place it started from. I think it made a lot of sense as to what happened in the end, to be honest. But yeah, so that is in relation to that. That is the addition that Omori made there. Using all of the previous precious rest days that Belle was given free reign to train, he has actually gone out to look into town to look for both Seer and Ryu. He also went to the dungeon to see if he could meet Wine and the others, but they couldn't get close because of Van and the other guards. He also wrote this topic and story in a short story for the Blu-ray. Now that's very interesting because that's one thing that was never really addressed in the light novels, in volume 16 and 17, more so 17, of course, in this case, is Belle trying to look for the Xenoses to see if they remembered something or anything in that, for that matter, right? But, of course, they would have remembered it had, of course, you know, Van and the others not been blocking Belle's access to them, basically. So that was something to keep in mind, and that is the reason why the Xenoses haven't been able to be a player in the story, of course, right? Only those who are familiar members of the Freya Familia remember Seer and possess the divine blood of Freya. Okay, that's a bit of a weird one. But basically, those who are part of the Freya Familia and those who have the Falna of Freya are able to remember Seer and also have the effect of the charm removed from them. Both Mia and Anya are Freya family members, so they remember Aurora before it was tampered with. Since it would be bad for Anya and the others to get into contact with Belle, Alan keeps an eye on the bar around the clock. So yeah, and that's the reason why, by extension as well, we saw in episode 8 why Hayden was like, alright, bring him out, bring out the guards, get him out of the way. And that's the reason why they were able to, Belle was able to get in touch with Mia, of course, in this episode. Belle's right arm has the habit of floating. This is a habit that was pointed out by Ryu in the 4th season of the anime. Belle had been consciously correcting himself ever since the deep level arc, and Van easily saw through it and gave him further advice for PvP. With Hayden and Van joining the competition, Belle's Master Championship is now in chaos. Good luck, I Drew. Oh my god. But yeah, no, this is in terms of Belle's training seniors, basically. He's gone from Ice to Ryu to Hayden and Van now, basically, as trainers, effectively. But no, so that is something that obviously was brought up as well, right, in episode 7, which I think was pretty cool. Again, I love that a lot of people may not like it, but I really like how Belle's weaknesses are always shown in the anime in some way, shape, or form, because he's still 6 months old, man, in terms of being an adventurer. He's only a 6 months old adventurer. His experience is so much it's just incomparable, the difference between the two, man. The difference in just sheer, like, experience is night and day. A lot of people think that Belle should be like this insane character who's extremely powerful and obviously with his skills and everything should be insane, but it's not really the case. That's not supposed to be what happens. It's not really the case. He's only 6 months old. He's lacking the experience. He's lacking the control over his strength, you could say, even. It's very different things. It's two very different situations to deal with, unfortunately. Alright, let's go and take a look at episode 8's tips now, of course, right? We'll break those down and see what they have in store for us in terms of information for us to gather and, of course, break down. There we go. Let's start off with this one first and foremost. Episode 8, tip number 1. Two types of magic caused by or used by Hadeen. Calls Hild fires a barrage of lightning, and Varian Hild fires a massive cannonball using a gigantic lightning spear. The city's finest magicians, comparable to Riveria, can cast both spells with a super short chant of just one bar. So yeah, Hadeen is pretty much effectively the, if not the best mage in Orario alongside Riveria. If I would say either that or top 3 at the very least, minimum for sure. And so that's why he's so good, and he's able to only have to chant with only one line rather than having to go concurrent chanting or do super long chants like how other mages have to technically do. That just shows his skill level and strength as well. Episode 8, tip number 2. I knew it was you right away. Hestia understood the note from Asri just by looking at the handwriting. The fake memories of Daedalus that Hermes sees during the operation to rescue the heretic or Xenosis in season 3, it was Asri who created it. So obviously Hestia was able to recognize Asri's handwriting from, of course, the previous season as well, or 2 seasons ago basically, right? So it makes sense there. Episode 8, tip number 3. Being an adventurer is just a pointless profession that's all about trying to look cool. Bell remembered the words Mia said to him 6 months ago, episode 2 of season 1. Why did Freya Familiar's Bell say that to Mia even though they have never met? Bell's thoughts, which had almost stopped, began to circle around again. Literally, like I said, it was a trigger call. That was such a good... I loved that when they did that in the light novel and of course the anime as well. I think it was amazing. Episode 8, tip number 4. I remember what she taught me. Bell, convinced that he is a descendant of the furnace god, or Hestia here, the hearth god, attacks Hadeen with the slashing technique he learned from eyes on the city wall, one by one, as if testing them. For some reason, a smile appeared on Hadeen's face as he received the ball, or the attack, I should say in this case. Like I said, there's something fishy about Hadeen. We'll find out in upcoming episodes. Episode 8, tip number 5. Hermes repeats repeats thought loops. English is a hard language. Hermes repeats thought loops and resets. The numbers are whopping 233 times. As he slowly advances his thoughts, he realizes that Asfi holds the key. To send a signal to her that he was not completely immersed in her charm, he shouted words of love from the center of the city that he would normally say. So in the light novel, he only whispered them, but in the anime, of course, he just shouted them out, which was, it was funny as shit, to be honest. I loved it. I loved the fact that he actually shouted them out in the anime. That was so good, to be honest. Fujino Omori's tips now and extra details. A little addition this week. Cracks in the sandbox garden begin to appear. The main reason for this is at the end of episode 7, Freya was hit unexpectedly by the white rabbit, giving her more time to think. From episodes 5 to 7, Freya was able to notice her Hestia and Hermes' movements and crush them. But the main reason is the Mirror of Loyalty's fuzzy thoughts. So it's just showing that she's kind of, becoming more and more engrossed in her own thoughts and her own feelings, and she's not sure about things, basically, right? As we saw at the end of episode 7, like Omori said, it's something that I wish we got more of in the last couple of episodes, right? Because it does happen, like, I think 3 or 4 times in the light novel, and we've only seen one of the 3 times, basically, that it happens effectively. I think it would be better if they shown off the other 2 times as well, because then you could have had an opportunity to, understand, that Freya's really just kind of weakening herself in a way, basically, right? Riveria and her friends' expedition, I should say, not expeditions. Many things happened, and the 1,000 fairies were holed up in the dungeon, so Riveria accompanied them to keep an eye on them and also to train and prepare herself. There were also many second-class adventurers participating, so they were the force Freya Familiar had to be most wary of in Orario at the moment, because of course, remember, the Freya Familiar technically did obviously charm people in the dungeon as well, down to Rivera. But of course, Riveria and everybody else must have gone down much deeper, and so they wouldn't have been able to charm them necessarily. So they would have had to wait until they came up to the top floor, or even got to Rivera, at least at the minimum, to kind of get them, effectively charmed, right? So something to keep in mind there. Loop Detective Hermes. The main trigger for Hermes to notice something unusual in everyday life is a letter from a certain kind old man. Now, this is what I've been saying that they should have had in the anime. Hermes was also obviously super smart and knew he was in a loop, of course, right? But one of the big reasons why he was able to recognize that he was in a loop and actually consider doing something about it was because Zeus kept sending him a letter saying, "Why haven't you sent me a message? Where is it? Give me updates on Bell. Tell me what's happening." And Hermes is like, Nope, no idea what's happening. The message, complete with emojis, asks people to find out about the white rabbit. Is it time for a regular report? Ding ding. From this point on, Hermes began to feel an intense sense of discomfort every time he met Ira. So that's something that I wish they had in the anime, is of course the whole Zeus thing, of course, right? Because again, a lot of people would have been like, well, is Zeus still in the picture or not? And of course that letter would have definitely proven that he's still around somewhere out there, basically, right? Omori also adds, thank you for episode 8. After overcoming the difficult times, there's finally light at the end of the tunnel. Next time we will be talking about the beginning of the counter-attack, which is also in the lyric of Green Boy's opening theme, Shonen. Please look forward to episode 9. The part with Bell and Eyes was so good. Of course, if you guys don't know where this is from Danmimo. This was from Sororitaria 12's adaptation. Highly recommend people go check that one out, of course, right? But yeah, no, I'm very much looking forward to episode 9 as well. Bit of a shame that it has been delayed, but if it means more time for them to cook, let them cook is what I say. But yeah, of course, if you guys have any other additional thoughts, anything you want to talk about in terms of what you found interesting from the extra details, leave it in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, all that sort of good stuff, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy, everybody. Bye bye.